Welcome back to the Hard Truth Podcast. Today, I got a question before we even get started. Have you ever tried to run away from a trial? It didn't work, did it? See, you can go anywhere on earth, but you quickly realize that our world is cursed. I'm your host, Clay Lyon. Well, I'm excited about this because I no longer have to sit and talk to myself.
It's been a long time coming, too.
So, I got my brother Eli with me today, and he's going to be with me from here on out. If you wouldn't mind, just give a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm Eli Isaac. I'm a born-again Christian. Grew up in the Christian church and found myself kind of drifting away from it. And I'd say, I think last April, my wife drugged me to church, and we've been going ever since. Rededicated our lives in December, and learning how to live out of this every day.
Yeah.
And trying to get better at it. I'm not perfect by no means. There only was one person that was. And that's the only reason why half this book's here, is because he was here.
Yeah. And so me and you've known each other for a little bit over a year now.
Yep.
And then we made the grand mistake of introducing our wives to each other.
Yep.
Which are two peas in a pod, so.
Fatal mistake.
It's been a fun last couple months, though.
It's been a good time. Except Olive Garden for getting the cheese.
Yeah. Rachel likes to say, I ruin every place you guys go and eat at. Every time we go out to eat together.
We go to Texas Roadhouse together, and she gets a medium steak. And we go to Olive Garden, and they don't bring cheese out the entire time. Yeah. So now
you was salty about that one.
I was. I figured out Olive Garden is not worth a dime if they do not bring out the Parmesan cheese.
And he walked right by you 4 times.
I know he did. I know.
So apparently we're not allowed to go out to eat together anymore.
It happens. We'll give it another shot, see what happens.
We sure will. Arby's was good. So today we're going to be on the book of James. And the book of James is kind of a hard one to tackle. There's kind of a lot of controversy that goes around the book of James. And before we get started, I just want to address my opinion on the difference between what Paul's saying in Ephesians and what James is saying in the book of James. Paul says in Ephesians that good works don't save you, but James says if you don't do good works, you're dead. Paul and James aren't contradicting each other. They're addressing two different problems from two different angles. Paul is answering the question, how is a sinner made right with God? While James is answering, what does real saving faith look like once someone claims to believe? When you hold those two together, the tension dissolves itself, and James is no longer controversial. So that's kind of our goal today. And do you have anything to add to that?
I get what James is saying, and with faith comes the good works. Like the more you live out of this book, out of the Bible, the more you act, the more you become like God himself, try to live like Jesus.
Yeah.
The acts are going to come. Like you're going to cuss less. Like I went from, a sailor would blush. I'm not going to say I never cuss, but whenever I do, I have a guilty conscience about it. I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. The more you are in this, the more you learn that the actions come. The works come along with it. And I think that's what James is really saying.
Are you someone who just believes, because we get told that even the evil one believes
Right.
that
Right.
Jesus is who he says he is.
It
Or are you
literally
a
says it
follower? Yeah.
in James. I guess that would be the same as, are you a pew sitter or are you a follower?
Yeah. Yeah. And to go a little further into this, Paul in Ephesians teaches that salvation is by grace through faith, not human effort. So no one can boast about their good deeds. And Paul's concern is legalism, the belief that works contribute to justification. And while on the other hand, James argues that faith with no accompanying action is useless, like a body without breath. His concern is empty profession, people claiming to believe but showing no evidence of transformation. And that's exactly what you were saying.
Right. Right. It's just easy to say, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I go to church every Sunday. But the other, 23 hours of the day, you don't act like a Christian.
You're whatever the world wants you to be.
Exactly. You snub your nose at people. Indulge in worldly things. Christianity is not a part-time thing.
No. And it's not something that's easy at all.
No, and it's not to be taken lightly.
Most Christians that we get to talk to on a weekly basis, and we're with our brothers a lot. Between everything that we got going on. 9 times out of 10, when you walk up to one of the brothers that we're with all the time and you ask them how they're doing, they're a wet rag that's been beat.
They're honest with you.
They are.
They're honest with you.
And most days I'm like that too. It's tough walking out and not fitting in with the way the world wants you to be here. Something that I've kind of come up with lately and I've been thinking about is we got 2 different aspects here. You either have a good time on earth and an eternity of hell, or you have a little bit of hell on earth, but we got our counselor that has our backs 24/7, and we have an eternity of peace. See, most people want to take the easy road at first because they don't know what they have coming after this life.
I mean, Job lines that out perfectly. I mean, look at everything God let him go through.
Yeah.
Well,
let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to be in James chapter 1, and we're going to start off in verse 2. Actually, you know what? No, we're not. And I'm not going to skip over this. We're going to start off in verse 1.
The greeting.
So starting off in verse 1, Eli, kick us off.
James, a servant of God and the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes dispersed abroad, greetings.
Okay. So I can't read, so Eli's got my back on that aspect. But stopping on verse 1, and the reason why I'm not going to skip over verse 1.
It's important.
It is important. But to me, it is important because Jesus' brother wrote this book.
Yep.
Mary should be the person that we have teach all our mothers how to be mothers. If you actually sit down and think, who's Mary's family and the boys that she raised up, it's amazing, isn't it? I would love to be part of that family, which you can be, and that is by giving your life to Jesus Christ.
And following this book.
Exactly. Mary has 2 different boys that wrote 2 different books in the Bible, and her third son, the oldest son, is 100% God, 100% man, here to save all of us from the dirty, filthy rags that we are. She's got a pretty good track record going for her.
I'd say.
Could you imagine having Jesus as an older brother living in your household, and Mary's in the kitchen cooking dinner for all of you, and you and Jesus are fighting about whatever it is that you're fighting about? Mary doesn't even have to walk in the room. She just yells from the other room, whatever you're fighting about, boys, Jesus is right. He can't be wrong.
See, growing up as the oldest kid, absolutely not. I
I'm in the same boat.
yeah, I don't know.
He could have.
I'd probably be pretty aggravated.
Yeah. James could have added to this because at one point he didn't even believe that his brother was God.
He didn't.
It wasn't until the resurrection, then all of a sudden James is on board. But in this letter, he could have added a little bit. He could have said, I'm Jesus' brother. He could have said 100 different things. He doesn't even state his own name. He says he's a servant of God.
And Lord Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
There's so much humility in that statement.
Yes, there is. So moving on, starting off in verse 2, if you wouldn't mind reading down to 4.
Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing.
So just hanging back at verse 2 for a second. We're in the very beginning in the book of James, and we're already at the point where the average person says nope and closes their Bible.
Yep.
How can a person consider it joy, and you're instantly thinking, did this man really just say we should be rejoiceful in the struggle?
Yep. In adding to verse 2, I want to go all the way back to Job 2, verses 9 and 10 here. Job says, you speak as a foolish woman speaks. Should we accept only good from God and not adversity? Throughout all this, Job did not sin in what he said.
That's very good.
I mean, God's not here just for the good times.
No.
Otherwise, he has to have a way to find who truly, truly, devoutly believes in him and who just says it. If he's not going to push you, if he's not going to teach you a lesson or two,
where does your faith grow?
Where does your faith go?
Yeah.
You start drifting. In the hard times of my life, I lean on God a whole lot harder than when it's good.
Yeah. When things are good, we tend to be prideful in ourselves.
Right.
Talking about the book of Job actually brings up a good point for me, because I used to think that in the seasons and trials that we go through, you had good seasons and then you had hard seasons. But that's not the way I think at all anymore. It's like you're on a set of railroad tracks that run parallel with each other, and every season has good and hard times in it.
It does.
And it makes it make a whole lot more sense for me personally, when I started to look at it like that. Because I used to, when I was going through kind of a tough time and I know I'm being tested, which James also tells us that God doesn't test us about anything.
Correct.
God can't tempt, because there's nothing about God that's evil.
Correct.
So when you start to look at it, like I said, for me personally, it makes it a whole lot more easier, because I used to get in these trials where I was having a hard time. It's like, if I just get through this, then I know there's a good trial coming after this. That's not how it works at all. It's a parallel set of tracks, and you got good and bad at the same time.
It's in your own head.
It is.
Yep. I've come to realize that too. Actually, through a friend going through some very kind of dark times right now. And at first, whenever it first started happening, I was like, read the book of Job. You're in a Job era right now. In hindsight, you're never really in a era or a swing of things or a phase. You're not in that. Like, you can put yourself in that, but God's not putting you in that. You're putting yourself there.
It all depends on, are you going to lean into the
Exactly.
world, or are you going to lean into God?
Yeah. Exactly. So I really like the 2-track analogy you were just saying.
Yeah. And then moving on to verse 4, let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. Endurance isn't passive waiting. It's something we must allow to have its full effect so we can become mature, complete, and lacking nothing in character and in faith. So a perfect example for that in my personal walk. Not very long after I got saved, duck season come about, and having a mud boat and be able to get places that other people can't necessarily get to. If any of you hunt on Carlisle, you know exactly what hole I'm talking about. You know exactly what fight happens every single morning. But we were able to run up in Beaver Creek a little further than what anybody else was. And we're able to get on the north side of the subs a little easier than what other people are. So for 3 mornings in a row, in this one particular corner of this cornfield up on the north side, I mean, like lightning, we were on it as soon as 4:30 hit. And the same group of people all 3 mornings, and I know exactly who they are. I consider them friends. They didn't know who we were in the pitch dark. And just to talk about endurance for a minute and being freshly saved during the time that I'm talking about, the first 2 mornings that happened, they screamed at us from about 250 yards away. And I mean, I was a sailor back to them.
Right.
I wasn't being the person that I should have been being at the time. And I was still kind of fresh in my Bible at that time too. And it was actually the book of James that I was reading through at the end of that second hunt when we got back to the house. The next morning when we went up there, same scenario. We beat them back to the same hole. I stayed quiet this time, and I didn't say a single thing when they started hooting and hollering. The only thing I did say to them is I encouraged them to call the game warden because we knew we was going to have problems with how far we was able to get up into the creek. So we would record every morning my buddy's phone, hit 4:30, and then we would come up over the levee. Yep. But on that third morning, it finally hit me, and God granted me the wisdom. Shut up, stupid. Just invite them to come hunt with you.
Right.
Which they didn't. And more power to them because I don't know that any of us would have been able to hold our composure for how mad that they were.
Right.
But just that little revelation right there that he gave me in the beginning taught me a huge lesson on what endurance actually is and what the goal of building endurance is.
Say if you ever want to see envy and jealousy, Carlisle Lake walk-ins, ladies and gentlemen. Never seen somebody fist fight over one duck.
Very first duck hunt I ever went on was in parking lot too. We were standing at the gates. Some little bitty old scrawny kid standing up at the front of the gate. There was 4 of us in our group. He turned around and looked at us and he said, what does everybody think about breaking the gate 2 minutes early? And he just acted like he was going. And that was enough to send
it probably turned into a knockdown drag-out like that.
15 people, man.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen some pretty interesting stuff up there.
I watched a couple boys get pretty rowdy on the levee at Caterpillar one morning.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even want to be in Caterpillar. There ain't no birds in Caterpillar anyways. Why are you guys fighting over Caterpillar field?
Same thing with whitetail.
All it is cockleburs.
You get down to Wren there and you don't get on the draw. You always know you got a place to go hunt if you are serious about wanting to hunt. Right. Because there's not a soul going to be at whitetail by the time you get back up there.
Nope. Even the walk-ins by 8:30, 9 o'clock, most everybody out of there.
They done had their fights.
Some of my best hunts walking in as everybody else is walking out.
Me and Josh actually talk about that quite a bit because I did get into that habit. We wouldn't even go out until 9 o'clock. We'd watch where all these birds was pulling up. And that's where we'd go hunt. We'd be out by 11. Well, that was scary. Like we was talking just a minute ago, I seen this thing just the other day, and it said most people who start off on podcasts never make it past episode 4.
Yeah.
And the evil one is really trying to not let us do number 5.
This is take number 3 on podcast number 5.
This is take number 3 for sure. We just lost all internet connection, and I was frantically trying to get the audio, at least if anything, to be saved. So we got her dead, and right before it went out on us, we were talking about duck hunting and the miscellaneous fights and things we see there. Trials reveal not only who we are, but who others are also. Like, for an example, have you ever been going through a hard time and someone close to you that is supposed to be there for you is just like, I'm gone, see you later, I don't want anything to do with this. But on the opposite side of that, trials also bring in people that we have no idea who they are, and they just show up and they're like, how can I help? And it's the beginning of a relationship built around Christ.
Shows people's true colors.
It really does. And I think after I was saved, me and Callie went through a 3-year period of, we had no contact basically with the outside world. And I didn't understand through that what the Lord was trying to teach me. And then I realized that He was trying to cleanse me of certain things in my life. But on the other side of that, it brought me to sitting and having fellowship with all you guys on Friday nights.
I've definitely noticed that as well this past year of just God trimming the fat in my life. Just certain people that, just thought they were, good friends and try to talk Bible with them and
don't want
nothing to do with it. And it's like, well, my path is going left and, yours is going right. I still love you, but I'm going to have to love you from a distance,
The Bible tells us over and over again, if you need anything, like for instance, Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, ask God and He'll give it to you generously. So if you wouldn't mind, let's go ahead and finish this out. We'll start in verse 5 and end on 8.
Yep. Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting. For the doubters is like a surging sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double-minded and unstable in his ways.
And then something important to note here is, in basically the whole summary of the book of James, asking God for wisdom, it only works when we do it in pure faith, because doubting makes us unstable. Are we going to go to the Lord and ask Him for things strictly for the glorification and the path we're trying to take through Him?
Or is it for you?
Exactly.
You can ask God for $1 million as many times as you want. You can ask Him for that girl. You can ask Him for that job. If it does not have God's best interest in the forefront of your mind, or if you don't have God's plan in your head when you're asking for that, I highly doubt He's going to answer it.
Yeah.
Or He's going to answer it, but He's not going to answer it the way you want it.
Not at all.
He's going to humble you.
And a double-minded person is wavering between trust and skepticism. Like you said, you shouldn't expect to receive anything from the Lord. And this highlights the importance of being wholehearted and dependent on Him. And if you're praying for that $1 million and it hasn't showed up yet, I would encourage anybody who had questions about that to go back into prayer, and just like Jesus tells us in the Sermon on the Mount, Lord, your will be done, not my own.
Exactly.
Is what I'm asking for beneficial, like you said, to me and you, or is it beneficial to your will and carrying out your will on earth?
Is it a worldly wish or a godly wish?
Yeah.
Like, you invited me to duck hunt your pit that day. I said a prayer to God. I said, let us have a good hunt. I'm not asking for 800 mallards in our face.
We're just asking for Josh to call the right shots.
I'm just asking for those widgeon to be a little closer than 40 yards, Josh. But no, like, I had a phenomenal day.
Yeah.
Like, and we only shot at them widgeon all day. It's not about what you get in the hand. It was fellowship, camaraderie, just
Feeding your spirit.
feeding your spirit, feeding your mind. And I feel like a lot of people, me included sometimes, have that problem when praying. You're asking God for the things. You're not asking God to help you, to help mold you to be able to go get those things for yourself.
I agree with that completely. Well, with that, sadly, we're out of time for this episode. I think we finally made it through episode 5. And just to end it off, this passage reframes suffering as a pathway to maturity, wisdom, and stability, reminding believers that God uses every trial to shape us into people who lack nothing essential for godly living. Thanks for watching The Hard Truth, and we'll see you next week.